Hello runners, this is Matt Fitzgerald with Competitor.com and another Competitor Q&A. Today with me I have the head coach of Adidas McMillan Elite running team based in Flagstaff, Arizona, Greg McMillan. Thanks for being with us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
And did I mess up the name of your team there again?
No, you did fine.
Okay, thank you. So the first question I'd like to ask you is regarding, you're sort of known as a coach who likes to take a long-term approach to developing his athletes, not necessarily looking for everyone to get their best career results right away as soon as you start working with them. Tell me a little bit more about that philosophy.
Well, I think if we start looking at our most successful athletes, they're usually reaching their peak 28 years old, 30 years old, 32 years old, 35 years old. So for someone like me, I have to look at the athletes I work with, which are usually coming to our program at age 22 or 23. We have to plan for that long-term development. So I think that's the only smart way to do it. So we know the training that needs to be done for them to be most successful, but they're not ready to do it yet. So we have to give them the opportunity to develop those skills to where they can do that training that will really lead them to be the very best.
Right. So I'm a huge fan of your the calculator, the McMillan calculator that you have on your website, which is it McMillanRunning.com?
Correct. Yep.
Tell me about how you developed that and a little bit about how it works.
Well, it's instead of studying late at night in graduate school, I was working on the calculator, but it really came from a coach's point of view. I was working with a wide variety of different athletes. I think if you work with an athlete who's just like yourself, it's easier to plan programs. You know, the paces people run and workouts and what they might be able to do in other distances. But as working with a lot of people across the spectrum, I needed a tool that could calculate appropriate paces for someone in the back of the pack, the middle of the pack, and the front of the pack. And so as a result, it sort of grew and became the calculator that's online today. And I think it's a good estimator for people to help them kind of zone in on where their appropriate paces are and give them an idea of where what performance they might be able to achieve in other races.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I recommend you check it out, all you runners out there. And finally, I'd like to ask you, in terms of this continuum that a lot of coaches are on one end or the other of, some consider themselves high-volume advocates. Others are more pushing the intensity, moderate volume approach. Where do you situate yourself along that continuum and why?
I guess on average I would be right in the middle. I think with the athletes I work with, we slide across that continuum depending on the time of the year and where they are in their development as an athlete. So there's certain times of the year we're certainly on the higher volume aspect of it, and certain times we're more on the higher intensity. And I think one of the problems we have is we're trying to categorize everybody into certain categories, and we shouldn't necessarily do that because the best training program, in my opinion, came from Arthur Lydiard, and it's the most complete program. People only talk about the high mileage base, which was really the new part of how he revolutionized training. But if you look at his full program, it's the most balanced. It includes a lot of volume, but then when you get into your race period, it includes a lot of intensity. So I think understanding these methods of how you develop across a season, how you change your training across a season, is really the best approach. So I would say I'm right in the middle on average, but I slide depending on the athlete and what event they're getting ready for.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks very much for taking a few minutes to chat with us, Greg. I've appreciated your time.
Thank you.
This is Matt Fitzgerald for Competitor.com. Come back soon for another Competitor Q&A.